I think the number one way to avoid all mistakes is to make sure that you have a licensed agent. We do have licenses in the state of Sonora, and to make sure that you're using an AMPI agent. It's the sister organization of NAR. That's the easiest way to make sure you avoid most of the common mistakes.
Welcome to Live by Design Mexico Edition, the podcast about creating freedom, adventure, and a life in Mexico that's truly your own. I'm your host, Taniel Chemsian. If you've been dreaming of warmer days, smarter investments, and a future designed on your terms, your journey starts here. Each week, we'll share stories, insights, and strategies to help you make Mexico not just your destination, but your new way of life. This isn't about waiting for that someday. It's about living by design, starting now. So let's get to it. Hey, Joseph, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Daniel. Good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you. So tell me, you are originally from the States and then you moved to Mexico. You live in Rocky Point, correct?
That's correct. Yep. Rocky Point, also known as Puerto Peñasco. Same thing.
All right. Well, tell us your journey. How did you wind up in Puerto Peñasco?
It's kind of funny. I started coming down here with my family when I was 8 years old, and been coming down because it's so close to Tucson, where I grew up. Coming down frequently, several times a year, every single year. And then cut to when I'm about 21 years old, my friend came down here for the very first time. He was from Northern California. He came down and figured out that this was a place that, he could party by the beach relatively inexpensively, honestly drink legally. And he said, you know what, I am moving to Mexico. And we all kind of thought, crazy kid, moving to Mexico, okay, whatever. But it just so happens that this was right when Puerto Peñasco, Rocky Point was booming. And after about 6 months, he called me up and said, hey, I know you all thought I was crazy, but turns out this is really a place that has a lot of potential. And so I moved down to help him out with his real estate career. And he's now a very successful agent, and that brought me down too.
Okay, so you just moved by yourself, no family? I
did. Yep, just moved by myself.
At 21?
I was actually a little bit older. I was about 22 at the time.
Okay, a lot older. So for people that don't know where Puerto Peñasco is located, can you share with us where it is exactly?
Sure. We're about an hour south of the U.S.-Mexico border. Of the Arizona border. We are on the mainland side of the Sea of Cortez, and we're about a 3.5-4 hour drive from either Phoenix or Tucson. So very close to the United States, very close to big cities of the United States.
It's the state of, is it Sonora?
Sonora.
Correct. Okay. So, when I used to live in LA, I've been to Tijuana to party when I was younger, and I went to Ensenada. So from Ensenada to Puerto Peñasco would be, how long of a drive would that be, do you think?
Yeah, I've made that drive a couple times. If I remember, it's about 7 hours.
Okay, that's a long drive.
Going through Mexico, and that's probably the way you'd want to do that drive. From Peñasco straight to LA, I think you can get it done in probably about the same amount of time, about 7 hours.
So a 22-year-old says to his family, ciao, I'm moving to Mexico. What was that like? Did you get any, hesitation? Was your family freaked out?
Well, it was also at a point in my life where I had now gone, I was at the University of Arizona. I was on my third major, and I was kind of going, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. It happened to be a good time for me to just kind of say, you know what, parents, you can stop paying for the education. I'm going to go, learn what I want to do, spend what I thought was probably 6 months or a year in Mexico, helping out a friend, making some money, kind of clearing my head. And I just never left after that. So
you've been in real estate ever since then?
Correct. Yep.
All right. So explain to me, so how many years ago was that? What year did you move to?
23 years ago.
23 years ago. Oh, wow. Almost the same time. I've been living in Puerto Vallarta now for, I think 22, 23 years. around the same time. So how has the real estate market changed from back then to now? I mean, are things booming? Was it really quiet back then?
Yeah, the market has changed, just like any market in the United States or anywhere else in the world. Things have gone up, things have gone down. The big difference is that we have a row of resorts that were all being built right during that 2002 to 2007, 2008 timeframe. Those resorts it was all basically vacant land at the time. And they're all built up now. They're doing resales. And so the town and the real estate options have changed quite a bit. And then the other main change is that we have the ability to cooperate with other agents now, whereas when I moved down, it was very unusual for a real estate agent with one company to go and try and sell the listings of another company. It was almost like, what are you doing,
Well, yeah, I mean, other parts of the world, the listing agent, they don't cooperate with other agencies. I mean, real estate is different every part of the world, right? They don't share commissions. It's their listing, so their office is going to sell it, and that's basically it. And nobody else has access to that property. But things like in Puerto Vallarta, we have we do the shared commission. At least 50% of the commission goes to the buyer's agent. So we were part of AMPI here, which is a real estate association in Mexico. Do you guys have AMPI in Puerto Peñasco?
You do. I'm actually the current president of AMPI. And it's something that is really important to me that when a buyer comes down, they have access to every property that's on the market, so they can see what works for them the best. And same with sellers. When a seller lists a property with an AMPI agent, they know that every other real estate agent in town who's also a member of AMPI, which is in our market, thankfully most of them, they're going to get the most exposure. So really it's a huge benefit to both buyer and seller.
So we use, we have the MLS system here is called the Flex MLS, which is from the States. Do you guys have an MLS in Puerto Peñasco?
We do. We actually use the same system. We use Flex MLS, and it really is a great tool for allowing all agents to see what's on the market for buyers, and then for listing agents as well. They're able to see what the competition is, what the previous sold values were, in order to accurately give a price to a seller. Very valuable tool, and something that I really hope that the rest of Mexico will adapt and start using. But I do know that some quote unquote Americanized markets, Rocky Point, Vallarta, some other markets around the country do have real MLSs, which is, again, something that me as an American, I'm used to. I think it's very common, but it's not common in every market.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I think slowly throughout Mexico, more and more regions are starting to use like an MLS system. I think it's great. Otherwise, you don't know if the property, I mean, I've seen properties advertised on multiple agents' websites or some other third party, and you don't know if that listing is real, if it's really active, if that agent really represents the owner, that the property is sold or not. And having an MLS system really does away with all of that. So I've got a question for you. I mean, I've never been to Rocky Point. I don't know what real estate there looks like. In Vallarta, we're primarily a condominium market. Mm-hmm. So what's it like at Rocky Point? Are you guys a condo market, mostly freestanding homes, gated communities? What can we expect?
Yeah, so we really have two sides of town, and it's a little interesting because the way Rocky Point is situated, we kind of have the east side and the west side of town, although you kind of think of it as north and south. But is there like some type of a landmark that separates the east from the west? What do you guys use? We have the old port, which is the actual fishing port that was used for years and years and years before the real estate market started really developing. And this isn't, completely 100%, but in general, properties to the west of the old port are condominiums, resorts, relatively big complexes with anywhere from a couple hundred units to, 1,000 units. And these are exactly the kind of resorts that you might expect to find in Puerto Vallarta or something like that. And then to the east of the old port, we do have several neighborhoods that are single-family home neighborhoods that are on the water.
So where do you find a lot of Americans? I mean, most of our foreign buyers are Americans. I'm assuming that's the same for you guys.
It is.
And is your second largest foreign group, would you say they're Canadians?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So most of the Americans and Canadians that are moving down there, are they favoring one neighborhood over the other? What are like some of the popular expat neighborhoods?
Yeah, so I don't think people are necessarily favoring one neighborhood over another. It seems to me that more people favor the condominiums, the resorts, than do the single family homes. But it works out because there's more units available in the condominiums than there are units available in the single family homes. So, my sales more or less go towards the condominiums, I'd say 70% of the time, and single family homes, about 30% of the time. But, it really comes down to what kind of lifestyle somebody who's coming down here wants to have.
And what are the names of some of these neighborhoods where you're seeing a lot of foreigners moving into?
So
and why? And why are they moving into these neighborhoods?
Sure. So on the neighborhood side, on the single family home side, we mainly have Las Conchas and Playa Encanto, I would say, are the two big ones. Las Conchas is going to be a little bit closer to town, and the homes it does have access to running water, city water. It has electric, and those homes tend to be a little bit more expensive, but also, again, a little bit nicer, maybe a little bit newer. Towards Playa Encanto, which is a little bit further away from town, they do have electric now. I was going to say relatively recently, but that's, I guess, 15 years ago now. But they do have their water trucked in. It's further out of town. The property prices tend to be a little bit less. And then on the condo side of town, we have a huge development called Las Palomas, which is 3 phases. I think they have a total now of 11 buildings. And they have more than 1,000 units across all those 11 buildings, and actually probably more than 1,300 units over those 11 buildings. Those large resorts offer more amenities. Las Palomas has a couple of on-site restaurants. It has a golf course. It has a lot of pools. It has a lazy river. And then we also have resorts that are significantly smaller. There's a group called the Sonoran Resorts that has a total of 5 resorts now in town. Several of them are much smaller resorts, a couple hundred units, and those resorts have fewer amenities. In other words, no golf course, but they do have on-site restaurants. They do have on-site pools, but they're just less dense. And some people prefer that. Some people prefer to have all those amenities. It's a personal preference.
So let's go back to the first set of properties you mentioned, which are the freestanding homes.
Sure.
Let's talk prices. People want to know numbers. So if you can kind of give us a general range of what we can expect for, let's say, a 2 or 3 bedroom house, and then let's go to the larger the development you mentioned, price ranges, and for the condos, let's stick with 2 bedrooms because that seems to be the number one seller for most people. They want 2 bedroom. So if you could give us a range for all of those you just mentioned, that would be great.
Sure. So in Las Conchas, which is, again, the close neighborhood with the single family homes, you can get something off beach, usually second, third row, starting at, I would say, around $300,000. And it goes up from there.
And would that be like a 3 bedroom house or a 2 bedroom?
That's going to be a 3 bedroom house. Yep.
Okay. And around how many square feet would you think that would be?
It depends on age and all that other good stuff. But I would say on average, we're talking probably pretty close to a 2,000 square foot home.
Well, that's a good size.
Yeah. Yeah. Compared to other markets in Mexico, we definitely have more affordable properties. For example, a 3 bedroom house on the water beachfront might only cost starting at about 600 to 700,000. And again, going up for there, it's rare to have a home on the water here cost more than, call it, $1.5 million. So.
Wow. Well, you know what? Vallarta was like that years ago, but not anymore. You know, all these beachfront houses, they're $1 million plus.
Yeah. And then going down the beach further east, further away from town, single family homes on the water start even as low as maybe 500,000. And, you know, again, you're further away from town, but for a lot of people, it really doesn't matter.
When you say further away from town, like, what's that, a 10-minute drive or a half-hour drive?
Yeah, I realize I'm talking to somebody from California, and you know, I'm from Tucson. Yeah, when we're talking further away from town, we're talking 25-minute drive, maybe max. There are communities further out, but if you drive anywhere in this town longer than about 30 minutes, you're considered going from, you know, one end to the other all the way, you know, as far as you can go. Most places in town are more like 15 minutes.
All right, and then going to that master plan community with 11, what did you say, 11 towers? So
Yeah.
what kind of a price range can we expect there for a 2-bedroom?
Yeah, 2 bedrooms are starting at about 300 or so now. I actually have to check, but 300, 325, something like that, on the low end for the 2 bedrooms.
Okay, and what kind of views can you expect from these towers?
Ocean views. Yeah.
Ocean views.
Now,
okay,
yeah,
and it's closer to town.
I'm sorry.
It's closer to town, or it's further away.
It's very close to town. Very close to town. Yeah.
Okay.
And so these, I mentioned that large resort called Las Palomas was built in phases. The third phase is just now getting done. Those properties are a lot closer to 600,000 for the 2-bedroom.
Okay. So what does the town itself look like, and where is town located in relation to, let's say, the water?
So again, we're a very small town compared to Vallarta or, you know, Mexico City or something like that. We have the old port, which is again that dividing point between the east and west side of town, and that is kind of the traditional historic part of town. There is some shopping and that kind of shopping and some restaurants and that kind of thing, but it's a very small area. And so what most people kind of consider the town is about 5 minutes inland. And that is where the grocery stores are, where the carnicerias, the butcher shops are, and that kind of thing. We're very excited. Just about a year ago, we got our very first Walmart here. So that
we did. Okay.
Put us on the map. So
you've made it now.
We've made it. We've made it.
All right. Well, do you guys have a Costco there? I guess if there's Walmart
we
got there.
We do not have a Costco.
No.
We do have a Sam's Club. Actually, Sam's Club came in almost 10 years ago. So obviously the same company as Walmart. And we have a Bodega Aurora here. I can never say that. Sorry. But we have a bodega and the Sam's Club right next to each other. And then the Walmart just recently came in a couple miles away from those 2 places.
Okay. So let's talk about lifestyle. Why do Americans and Canadians, why would they gravitate towards Rocky Point? Like, what's so special about it?
Yeah, so I think that the main reason for a lot of people is that if they're using this as a second home, it's so close to Phoenix and Tucson that you don't need to go to the airport, hop on a plane, you know, disembark and all that other good stuff. You can literally decide, you know what, I want to go to my second home. I'm going to hop in my car and go. You know, people oftentimes say, you know what, I'm going to, instead of taking off at 5 o'clock in the evening for my work, I'm going to leave an hour early and I'll be there in Rocky Point enjoying the beach in 3.5, 4 hours. But people who want to live here, I think it's the same kind of thing. You know, they want to have the beauty of Mexico, but they also want to have the ability to return up north for whatever reason quickly. And, you know, I also think that price is a huge factor as well. A lot of my clients have looked other places in Mexico, realized that the cost of properties here are significantly less expensive than they are in other places in Mexico.
Yeah, sure. I mean, some of the resort destinations like Vallarta, Cabo, Cancun, Tulum, they're super popular now. And as more people move in, supply and demand, prices go up. Are you seeing a big influx of foreigners moving into Puerto Peñasco? Because the prices seem really reasonable. I think if you just had 1 million people moving there all at once, that's going to drive prices up. Do you find prices to be pretty stable, or have they skyrocketed in the last few years?
Prices skyrocketed as the resorts were being built in, call it 2006, 2007, but that was part of a global real estate market. Prices skyrocketed again in 2020 as people were kind of let out of quarantine during COVID and said, you know what, I want to be, if I'm going to be stuck doing work from home, I want my home to be really nice. But things have kind of calmed down in the last couple of years. And I think that's partly because the interest rates have gone up both in Mexico and in the United States. I think that people don't have as much access to capital as they did a couple of years ago. And so prices are pretty steady right now.
Yeah, that was my question. Like, I would say 2023, 2024, things were a bit slow in Vallarta. Were you guys experiencing the same thing?
We were. Yeah.
And how?
I think everybody was waiting for the 2% interest rates to come back, and
wishful thinking. I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon.
No, I don't either.
But at least for my office, 2025 has been a lot better than 2023, 2024. So what's the market like now compared to, let's say, 2 years ago when things really started to slow down? And how has that affected prices?
What's funny is that prices still have maintained right about where they were before in 2023, 2024. And I think that our sellers, because we're a relatively small market, 23 and 24, there really weren't a ton of transactions available on our MLS. And so sellers were putting their property out there and there was just no buyers for it. And so I think what people are seeing now, as we record this anyway, that sellers are a little bit more willing to negotiate on the price than they were in 2023, 2024, when they thought, oh, this market's, coming back. So that's, sellers aren't giving away their property, and nor should they. But they're more open to accept offers that are coming their way because they realize that, what they were hoping for, which was a massive influx, is not as likely to happen as they thought maybe it would be.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, when people were able to travel again after the vaccines and I call it the post-pandemic money, 2021 and 22. I mean, it was just insane.
Yep.
But that money came and went. And of course, with inflation creeping its ugly head and everything's costing, 30% or double or more, people don't have that expendable income like they did before. And what I've noticed, owners that were a bit overzealous in their pricing, now they're kind of coming to the realization, their property, it's not worth what it used to be a few years ago. So either they have to adjust to the market or the property can sit there and become stale.
Yeah.
And even though some sellers are willing to negotiate more, unless the price that the prospective buyer is looking at is not within where the market says it should be, they're not even considering making an offer. And are you finding some owners that are adjusting their prices, or are they just saying, well, just bring me an offer. We want to keep the list price the way it is? Because I don't think that really helps sometimes.
Yeah, it's about 50-50. There are definitely owners that are adjusting their price down. And there are other owners who just, are sticking to their guns. And but I've found the owners that are sticking to their guns, oftentimes, not always, when an offer is presented to them, the price at which they're willing to accept is significantly lower than the list price. So, the market will dictate, what a property's worth. And, some sellers are actually relatively, let me rephrase that. I think that some sellers are realistic as to what their property is worth, and some sellers are too optimistic. And
yeah. Well, that's where the MLS comes in handy, right, Joseph? You could show an owner what has sold in their neighborhood, similar style home, number of bedrooms, square feet, and at that point, it's the fact. So either we need to adjust your price according to what the market says, what people are willing to spend, or you risk your property sitting on the market for a while and becoming stale, and that doesn't help the seller.
That's exactly right. And your point is well taken. That is one of the key benefits of having the MLS and having access to see not only what our company has, but what every other company in the market has. And
now,
that helps. Go ahead.
Sorry. In terms of pre-construction, I've noticed over here, some developers are now being more flexible. Are you seeing anything? When I say flexible, like, discounts, they're willing to throw in a refrigerator or a free parking space or some type of a concession. Are you guys seeing that with pre-construction in Puerto Peñasco?
We are. And developers who may have previously wanted 30% down for a pre-construction property, some of them have programs now where somebody could drop down to 20% down.
And then has that helped?
It has. Yeah, it absolutely has.
Yeah.
And also some developers are offering massive discounts for cash transactions. Or discounted price for the more you put down. You put 70% down, you may get a very decent discount on the price.
And that's great for the buyer because really they're putting less money out of their pocket, so there's less risk for them, and it's helping generate sales. And some of my developers actually have gone down this new payment terms with 10 or 20% down instead of 30% or 50%. And that's really helped generate some sales. Not every developer is doing that, but those that are, they're seeing some inventory starting to move.
Absolutely, yeah. Same in our market as well.
So a lot of foreigners who don't know what the process is like purchasing property in Mexico get a little bit nervous. So what are some of the common mistakes you see foreign buyers making, and how can they avoid them?
Well, I think the number one way to avoid all mistakes is to make sure that you have a licensed agent. We do have licenses in the state of Sonora, and to make sure that you're using an AMPI agent. It's the sister organization of NAR. That's the easiest way to make sure you avoid most of the common mistakes. The other common mistake that I still see is that people are perhaps trying to avoid the closing costs by avoiding purchasing a property inside a bank trust, using a bank trust. We are part of the restricted zone, and it's amazing how many people will, purchase a $500,000 condo and want to save the $10,000 or so on the bank trust, or we'll call it $20,000 all in closing costs, by circumventing that bank trust process. It's the only way to secure your ownership is by having that property inside a bank trust if you're not a Mexican citizen buying in the restricted zone. And it blows my mind at how people are willing to take that risk.
I mean, there's really no other way for a foreigner to purchase unless it's in a trust. I mean, unless they, like you said, they're a Mexican citizen or they buy it through a Mexican corporation, which I think that's a whole other conversation. I wouldn't do it. But the closing costs, look, I mean, around half of the closing costs you get back, as a credit towards your capital gains tax when you sell, the notary's legal fee and then the transfer tax, right? So long as you have the original receipts, you could deduct those from capital gains tax. And closing costs here in Vallarta for a residential home is depending, it's usually between 3.5% and 6%. 3.5% being if it's a really expensive property, because a lot of the itemized expenses and the closing costs are a set fee. So if you're buying a $5 million property, your closing cost percentage is going to look a lot smaller, right? So is your closing costs around then up to 6% or so? Or is it?
Yeah, I would say so. The way I normally describe it to my clients is that it's going to be 2.5% of the purchase price of the property, and that's what's called the property transfer tax here in Sonora. It's different all over Mexico.
It's around the same here, between 2 and 2.3, 2.5.
Okay.
The transfer tax. Mm-hmm.
And so ours is 2.5%. I tell my clients 2.5% plus anywhere between about $8,000 and $10,000 in closing costs. And so you're right, as the property value increases, the percentage of the closing cost goes down. But a good rule of thumb for most of our properties is going to be that 2.5% plus $8,000 to $10,000. There's a lot of different ways people own property in Arizona LLCs, which is going to lower the closing costs. There's some pros and some cons to doing that. People sometimes are able to find other ways of lowering the closing costs. But I would say a good rule of thumb is that number I just put out.
When I started real estate here, most of my buyers were baby boomers on the verge of retirement, or some had just retired. What are the buyer demographics like for you guys in Rocky Point?
Yeah, we do have a lot of people who are either retired or going to retire, but we also have surprisingly, at least surprising to me, high number of people who are in their early 40s, mid 40s, who are looking to the future, who understand that purchasing the correct property here will provide some income during the time that they own it, and they're looking at what they want to do in 15, 20 years. I think a lot of investors are coming in and seeing that Rocky Point does have a huge growth potential. And I think that a lot of people are investing a lot more than it used to be. It used to be almost 100% people who are looking to retire.
Well, you just kind of segued into my next question, and that was exactly that. Are people buying properties to rent out, and what's the rental market like in Puerto Peñasco?
Yeah, so I think like anywhere, yes, people are buying properties to rent out. On the resort side of things, I think I heard a stat, it seems correct to me, that probably 75-80% of the properties that are on the resort side are being rented out as vacation rentals, either through VRBO, Airbnb, or a local company on the ground, or a combination of all three. And I think that that's a huge thing because unlike in Vallarta, we do not have a whole lot of hotel options. Almost everybody who comes down, even just for the weekend, is going to stay in a condo and is going to be staying in somebody else's property. An individual owner versus a hotel chain is going to be making money on those rentals. And again, just like everywhere else in the world, it depends so much on what the property is and how it's decorated, how it's advertised. But I would say, for example, I've got a client who has a 4-bedroom ground floor unit in one of the resorts. They are on track to do about $140,000, $150,000 in rental income this year.
Wow.
Now, an average 2-bedroom that's marketed well is probably going to generate maybe $60,000 or $70,000 in rental income. Now, that doesn't take into account paying the HOA fees, paying the property manager, et cetera, et cetera. But we're hoping, my hope for when my investor clients come in is if they spend $450,000 on a condo, I'm trying to get them roughly 7% return on investment on whatever they buy. If their goal is rental income, that's kind of what we're looking for.
So if somebody does want to purchase an investment property and rent it out, what would you say are the top neighborhoods for them to look into? Actual names of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, I like Las Conchas a lot. Beachfront homes in Las Conchas do very, very well. There are not a whole lot of them compared to the number of people who want to rent them. And so the average cost per night goes way up, simply supply and demand. And then I also really like the Sonoran Sun is one neighborhood that I personally like. And just because I like the grounds, I like the way the property was built, and it's now coming up on 17 or 18 years old, so it's not brand new. The prices there an investor can get in still have a pretty nice property and have a 2-bedroom for basically that 400, 425 price point that I was talking about.
And would that be close to town? Are there ocean views from these condos?
Yes, they're actually oceanfront. Actually, all of our resorts, with the exception of one, are oceanfront resorts.
Okay. So there are a lot of our American and Canadian counterparts that are thinking of moving to Mexico, but they're fearful, or they've got doubts or sitting on the fence. What's the one advice that you can give them regarding their dream of moving to Mexico?
My advice, especially for Rocky Point, come on down for a weekend. It's easy to do. Enjoy the beaches, enjoy the town, get to know the town. And I don't think anybody, after spending a weekend here, is going to be fearful of anything. On Facebook, there's a lot of Facebook groups here in Mexico. We obviously, just like I'm sure you do, get questions. I'm driving down from Phoenix for my first time. I'm going to be, getting to Rocky Point, but I'm a little apprehensive about going. And somebody responded maybe a month ago. You're right. The drive is dangerous, but once you get past Phoenix, you're A-okay. And it's kind of how I feel. The United States, I feel so much safer when I cross the border into Mexico than I do in the United States. And that is 100% true. And I think that just, taking the plunge, coming down, I think that is going to allay a lot of fears for a lot of people.
Well, Joseph, thank you very, very much. And by the way, does your company just handle sales, or do you guys do rentals as well?
We actually just do sales, but my wife and I are starting a property management company soon. So we might be doing more property management company in the next couple months, beginning of 2026. So.
Okay, wonderful. So Joseph, if someone wants to reach out to you, come down to Rocky Point, check it out, maybe be given a tour to what kind of properties are out there, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can absolutely visit our website, rockypointbest.com, and you can take a look at some information about the community, see what properties are available for sale. You can email me. It's the letter J, Toland, at rockypointbest.com, or just give me a call on my Tucson phone number, so 520-339-1392. 520 in this case is the area code in the United States, not the country code of Mexico. So,
yeah. Well, Joseph, this has been great. We'll put all your contact information in the show notes, and I wish you all the best in Rocky Point, and I'm sure we're going to revisit and have another chat in the coming months. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joseph. Take care. Thanks for listening to Live by Design Mexico Edition. If there's a topic you'd love for us to cover, email us at info@tanielchemsian.com. We'd love to hear your ideas. And be sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and join me each week as we explore how to create freedom, adventure, and live by design under the Mexican sun. Design your days now, and your future will follow.